Institutions of National Government, Unit 4, Video 6, Congressional Decision-Making. So, basically the idea is there are a lot of different people and groups that are trying to influence congressmen, political parties, constituents, their fellow members of Congress, the president, interest groups, lobbyists, PACs, staff agencies. All these people are trying to influence them, so how do they make a decision? Well, there's a couple of different ways that they can do this. One is that they can act as a trustee. If they act as a trustee, it means that they vote how they personally believe is best. So they know what their constituents want, but they choose, they make their own decision. If they do that, they are acting as a trustee. On the other hand, if they do what their constituents want, then they are acting as a delegate. So delegate means that they do what the constituents want, even potentially if it might disagree with what they personally believe. Oh, well, that is a random slide right there, but those are some amazing things. You see the Jordan 12 playoffs, they're back again. God, those things are beautiful. Don't even lie, those things are nice. 10.5, yo. Final Fantasy VII, great video game, highly recommended if you have about 90 hours of your life to waste away, but it's kind of awesome, so I highly recommend that too. Shawshank Redemption, best movie ever. Alright, so now that I've built up your life a little bit, let's get back to it. Okay, they can also act as a politico. So before that distraction, we're talking about trustees and delegates. Politico, it means that it depends on the situation. They sometimes act as a delegate, sometimes act as a trustee. So at times they'll do what they think is best, at other times they will do what their constituents want. Probably depends on what type of issue it is. If it's very public, something that the public has a very strong opinion on, they'll probably act as a delegate. If it's something a little bit less known, then they are free to act as a trustee. However, they also have to worry about their fellow members of Congress, and this is called the organizational view. So this is when they vote in order to please their fellow members of Congress. So they might vote for laws not because they believe in it, not because their constituents believe in it, but because their other congressmen want them to, so especially their party. Alright, political parties have a tremendous influence over how congressmen vote. We have a term of what's going on right now. I want you to highlight party polarization. It is massively important in this class. Party polarization is the ideological division between Republicans and Democrats in Congress. They are getting more divided. Our Republicans and Democrats in Congress are more divided than your average typical citizens in this country. So why is this happening? Well, for one thing, they have a clear difference on issues. Republicans are becoming more conservative. Democrats are becoming more liberal. So they have a lot of times where they simply do not agree on issues at all. Additionally, we have more ideological voters that vote in primaries and midterm elections. So we've done that earlier in the year, so we know that is the case. People who vote in primaries and midterms, they are more ideological, more partisan. It's not the average person, the moderate voting. It is the very liberal or the very conservative. And what you can see in that graphic, I think it's a good graphic. It's essentially showing you how in the past, in 1982 for instance, you had out of 435, you had 344 members of the House of Representatives, Democrats or Republicans, that had overlapping beliefs. So they could negotiate, they could work together. Same thing in 1994, it was slipping down to 252. 2002, it's down to 137. But now today we're down to about 11 members that have overlapping beliefs. So Republicans have drifted further to the right, Democrats have drifted further to the left, which means that they don't agree anymore. So there isn't going to be as much compromise. So the effect is policy gridlock, which is a term we'll get to later, but it basically means nothing's getting done. Fewer bills get passed, there are more filibusters, and it's tougher to confirm judicial nominations. So all of these are results, effects of party polarization. Along with that, we have party line voting, which again, we did that earlier in the year. Party line voting is when all the Democrats vote together one way, all the Republicans vote another way. So again, your party is trying to influence you because you don't want to be the person who goes against your party. So there's a lot of pressure to vote the way your party is voting. Party line voting, as we know, it is increasing rapidly. Additionally, you have the party whips, the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader, the party leadership. They are all going to put pressure on you as well, and so is the party caucus. That's the meeting of Democrats or the meeting of Republicans, again, in which they try to be united and to work on what they're going to do. So you can see these names here. they're all voting with their party over 90% of the time, and that is definitely what's happening these days. They also care about what their constituents think. Congressmen vote with public opinion about 2/3 of the time. So what that means is, acting as a delegate or a trustee, about 2/3 of the time they act as a delegate. They do what their constituents want. Obviously the reason for this is because they want to get reelected. If they don't please their constituents, they aren't going to get reelected. So if they're in a competitive reelection, they're going to make sure they do their best to please them and help them keep their job. Alright, now additionally, we talked about the organizational view, which said that they are going to work with their fellow members of Congress. The term for that is log rolling. I know it's a ridiculous term. See that picture all the way to the right? I don't know. That's what comes up when I Google image search log rolling. See some crazy white folk. I don't know what to say. White people crazy sometimes. They be whatever they doing on the logs. But anyways, log rolling is essentially vote trading. It is where the representatives, you vote for my bill, I will vote for yours. So that representative in Utah, he doesn't really care about the representative in Iowa's bill, but if they vote for each other's, then they're going to be a little bit stronger and they can get this thing done together. So they're just vote trading. That is a term, it's a ridiculous term, but it's a term you definitely want to know. The president also influences congressmen. Merely threatening to veto a bill can have a lot of effect on Congress, because if he threatens to veto it, they know, okay, if we don't change this bill, it's going to be a waste of everybody's time, because we probably can't override his veto. So if he just simply threatens to veto, it puts pressure. He can also use the media to put pressure on them by coming out, because obviously the media pays more attention to the president than they do to any single member in Congress. So he can use that to, again, put pressure on Congress to do what he wants them to do. Interest groups, PACs, lobbyists, they all put pressure on them too. We've talked about this. They lobby, they provide information. PACs give or raise money, campaign contributions. Interest groups can go to the grassroots and get pressure from the people to protest, to call their representatives. So again, all of these are tactics that they use to try to influence representatives and congressmen as well. Lastly, we have staff agencies. This one probably is one of the less important ones in this area, but what staff agencies do is they give Congress knowledge equivalent to the president, or at least that's the goal. It's like their own intelligence service. So the president has, you know, all of these agencies working for him. This is Congress's. It's called the CRS, Congressional Research Service. They provide nonpartisan information, so it's not biased Republican, Democrat, but it's supposed to give Congress more information so that they can, when they fight with the president, they, you know, are armed with good information. But again, all of these groups are putting pressure on congressmen to vote how they want them to vote. So a lot of competing pressures.